What's up, guys? It's Ben A. It is wild to think that 60 million Democrats voted to shove this tampon into the second highest, most powerful position on earth. They wanted Tim Walz to become a heartbeat away from the actual presidency. They voted for that, at least the ones who actually voted. I just assume that about half of that is fraud, glitches, criminal aliens, or so on. But nonetheless, millions of Democrats wanted this douche to be one of the most powerful men on earth. But thankfully, the vast majority of voters said no. In fact, maybe he should be one of the most popular men inside of the prison yard. And, well, if you see the way that Tim Walz behaves on stage, you'll know why. Treasury and House panel launched probes into Tim Walz's handling of billions of dollars of fraud and may make criminal referrals. They did make criminal referrals, and now Tim Walz's political career is over. And I'm not just talking about his re-election campaign for governor. Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, he's the attorney general, criminally referred to the DOJ for investigation over Minnesota fraud. Now, the DOJ has a bad track record of not following up on this kind of stuff, but nonetheless, it's good to see a little bit of action from Congress. Here's the paperwork and the citations. What are we sending for criminal referral here? This would be violations of U.S. code, which govern conspiracy to defraud the United States, aiding and abetting federal offenses. That's kind of what they did, actually. So Anna Paulina Luna says that she's referring both to the DOJ and Elon Musk saying it's time they did time. Walz obviously has had a very, very bad track record here. He lied about his military service. He honeymooned in China. He has a DUI. He announced that he woke up wishing President Trump had died. And he's now overseeing one of the largest fraud scandals in human history. And so it's not been great. The Small Business Association has also slammed the door on Minnesota, as has the Treasury Secretary. Bessett launches investigation into Tim Walz recklessly allowing a Somalian terror group to get welfare dollars. We are acting fast to ensure American taxes are not funding global terror. The Treasury Department has banned all wires for welfare recipients out of the country. That is very, very smart. Things are getting really, really bad for Tim Walz. Local Minnesota news is reporting that Scott Bessett is now cracking down on the states. They can no longer receive HHS dollars. They can no longer receive money from the Department of Labor, no longer receive, at my direction, the U.S. Treasury is investigating. This is all really, really bad for Tampon Tim. Here's Kelly Loeffler talking about it. It's crazy. This is a whole of government crackdown, not to mention the brand new assistant attorney general to look into fraud, which of course I'm sure Minnesota will be the top of the list. Tim Walz, to defend himself, says it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a prosperous state. It is a well-run state that attracts criminals. Not really a great advertisement for your state. Tim Walz has been a very bad advertisement for a state for a very long time. It's been a nightmare. His state has been run as a nightmare. Nobody's even sure if Tim Walz is the legitimate governor of Minnesota because, well, he just straight up, this dude, like, let's just call it what it is. Tim Walz and every Democrat in Minnesota most likely wins because of fraud and their fraudulent voting systems. Everything needs to change, and it might well change this week. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will be resigning his office, according to multiple reports, with ties to the Walz campaign. Tim Walz is set to resign, according to multiple reports. This is the local talk show station in Minneapolis. Let's go ahead and see some of the other reports. Here, Carter Hughes. These are the TikTok and the timeline. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is set to resign within the week, according to multiple reports from within the Walz campaign. This comes after he was referred for criminal indictment for Somali fraud. If you think Tim Walz should resign in disgrace tonight, like this reply. Many are calling on Tim Walz to resign. Nancy Mace was one of them, saying that the fraud has run rampant. Nancy Mace is also running for governor in South Carolina. Republican Tom Emmer says that Tim Walz is likely to be arrested if he doesn't resign. It's time for Republicans to stop talking and start doing. Yeah, high-level officials have resigned or been fired by Tim Walz over the $9 billion in fraud. Nope, no one. J.D. Vance calls on Tim Walz to resign. I think Tim Walz should resign because it's very clear that he either knew about the fraud in Minneapolis or at the very least he looked the other way. Unbelievable incompetence. And remember, it was J.D. Vance versus Tim Walz on the debate stage in 2024. Tim Walz retaliated against fraud whistleblowers. He shouldn't just resign. He should leave the office in handcuffs, saying Tom Emmer of Minnesota. Holy smokes. Tim Walz is panicked and losing his mind. In front of millions, I will resign over my dead body. I will fight it to the very end. When does the guy in the White House resign? This is what a guilty man sounds like. Investigate him now. Tim Walz also just freaking looking terrible. I mean, like he's always somebody who just looks like somebody cosplaying Bernie Sanders, like, right? Poorly. Tim Walz, like in his 50s. Look at this dude. He is really, I mean, he really looks, this has had a toll on him. Here's Tim Walz's full meltdown.
Their idea of improving this state is being a parrot for Donald Trump, agreeing to everything that he agreed with. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. It ain't happening. I'm not going anywhere. And you can make all your requests for me to resign over my dead body. Will that happen? I will fight this thing till the very end to make this state better. And the question that I think they need to decide is when did the guy in the White House resign? When does he take accountability for what he did?
So, yeah, I guess we'll see. But if the entire federal government is investigating you for fraud, and if your existence is going to bring down the prospects of the entire Democrat Party, and the Democrat Party, of course, can't lose Minnesota, they're going to lose a bunch of other states. They're going to lose a ton of electoral votes. They can't lose the state of Minnesota. If you had a Republican come in there and actually clean up the process and the system, Minnesota is, in fact, a red state. It would be a sight to behold. And so the Democrats don't have any loyalty to Tim Walz. They don't care about Tim Walz at all. They would throw him right in the meat grinder with the next guy, just like they did with Joe Biden. I guess we'll see. Like, comment, and share this video if you think Tim Walz should resign. It's your boy Benny. I'm going to bring